What's up, everyone? I'm the Kaiju no Kami here at Color Out Anime Fest 2023 with
Kralika Kane.
And we are interviewing.
Hi, my name is Lucien Dodge.
Welcome. For someone who doesn't know what you've been in, what have you been in?
Oh boy, well let's see. Some of the current stuff that people may have heard or seen. We're talking Akaza, Demon Slayer, Mahito in Jujutsu Kaisen, Felix in Fire Emblem Three Houses, Kibo in Danganronpa, what else? Zoisite, Sailor Moon, both the classic redub and Crystal. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that I'm probably forgetting, but those are the main ones that come to mind.
The one I love the most is your voice for Zoisite. I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan, so getting to actually see Zoisite portrayed properly was amazing because the old dub had its cool stuff for when growing up, but I preferred watching in Japanese. But then this new dub felt like it was really respecting the original and everything. So getting to hear your voice as Zoisite, I'm like, it sounds just like the Japanese.
I appreciate it.
And my favorite scene is with all the rats.
Yes, that's such a great scene. So ridiculous and over the top. But yeah. That definitely one of those top scenes when I'm thinking of Zoisite. Yeah, that definitely comes to me.
Yeah, when I did a review of the first season on my channel, that was one of the scenes I showcased for Zoisite, since that was like my favorite moment of his.
It's so
and your
good.
Delivery was excellent on that.
Oh, thank you. No, that was a lot. I remember just like going. Again, it's like you can't hold back in a situation like that. It's just so silly. You just gotta go for it. You gotta commit. And I remember even at the time, like doing like the scream as the rats descend upon him, and the voice director Susie just like, I think she laughed. She was like, "Yeah, that's great. That is terrific." So yeah, that was a good time.
Now, did you find yourself having to work a lot or struggle when you had to do Zoisite in Crystal from the original anime?
It wasn't so much a struggle, but it definitely was a gear shift because it is a different characterization. It's not quite, the Zoisite in the classic series is definitely much more, I'd say, flamboyant and fey, whereas Zoisite in Crystal is a bit more stoic and reserved. So it did take a little bit of just kind of like a mental shift of like, okay, so just have to kind of bring in everything, but still I did want to keep a bit of that spirit, bring over as much as I could from the classic Zoisite. So there is still a bit of a kind of a sensitivity and sort of a softness and kind of a conniving, like a tactician's brain almost, where Zoisite's kind of thinking about how to use everything to his advantage. So there's some similarities, but yeah, I definitely did. It is a different voice. It is a different characterization between the two, which was cool. But it was a distinct choice I had to make to go, okay, no, it is different though, so I have to kind of shift things a bit for Crystal.
Yeah, it's interesting because Zoisite, so I'm not sure if you're familiar that there's a live action TV series of Sailor Moon.
I did.
But yeah, Zoisite's portrayed differently in all three adaptations.
Is he? That makes sense.
Yeah, like, because in the live action one, he's more serious and he ends up having a relationship with Ami.
Okay, interesting.
Now with that for Zoisite, not just to keep on that character, but the one thing I was curious on, because there was such a different characterization in the 90s, because I'm old, I actually watched it as it aired in America. I noticed, just even from opening ceremonies with Kieran being so excited that you voiced Zoisite, because it was more on that LGBTQ plus perspective. Have you noticed that you've gotten a lot of visceral reactions from fans, just excited having watched the original and then getting to see your perspective of it?
Yeah, I have, and again, I think it does really tie into the fact that they for this iteration, this version of the dub, they did go much more be the term, honest or accurate, I guess, to the original intention. And so I think that there are definitely a lot of people who recognize that and appreciate that they did that, and that they are seeing that interpretation, but in a new dub. I think is really cool for people. I think it's really
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love the original actress's performance, and I understand it's not right, but I understand back in the 90s.
For the times, yeah, like you know, for what it was.
Exactly.
Like it was fun, you know, that kind of dynamic.
Absolutely. So it always changes. Now, you also have had the opportunity to portray another iconic character that has been voiced multiple times by other actors, Amuro Ray, for Gundam Origins.
Yes.
So I was curious on that because it is such a long-standing character that's been around for almost 45 years now. I think about 45 years. What has it been like to voice a character that everyone really knows, that they've seen so many times over the decades?
Well, yeah. So I mean, similarly to Zoisite's, although maybe some ways it's even more well known or ubiquitous. I guess within anime, you know, Amuro is like almost like type A anime protagonist, if you will. So yeah, certainly the importance or the significance of that is not lost on me. I have to admit, in some ways, maybe just in order to be able to sort of do my job properly, I almost don't pay attention or I'm not super focused on just how widely impactful he is. Like I know on a certain level, you know, that's certainly the case, but you know, when I go into work, I'm kind of just thinking about, you know, how to portray the character truthfully, you know, based off of the information I know, and of course collaborating with the director. And then, so how do I put my I say spin, you know, how do I portray the character with my own sensibilities, and hopefully that will resonate with people when they hear it. It's almost, I would say, kind of like, you know, there have been many portrayals and performances of Hamlet, right?
Sure.
And many actors who have played Hamlet over the years, and everyone, you know, and some maybe modeled their performance or harkened back to, you know, certain iconic performances of Hamlet, but others try to make it their own and almost don't want to know who else has played the character or seen the performances of that character, because they kind of just want to embody it and approach it, you know, with almost fresh, and that's the proper way. And that's kind of, I would say, that's kind of how I approach Amuro as well. You know, certainly with all due respect to everyone else who's played the character, I kind of don't want to know too much, because I might be too swayed, or again, I just might be too in my head. I would rather just kind of sort of anchor it again in a way that makes sense to me, and you know, I think this is a truthful representation of the character, and hopefully people, you know, like that, but you know, that's as much as I can do as a performer.
And I think that's a fair perspective, because I think with anime, just like with any other entertainment medium, like you said, there's going to be new portrayals of older characters, and with so many animes getting new dubs and things like that, I think you're one of many that are going to experience that. And I think that's a good perspective, that you don't put yourself in that situation where you can unintentionally be intimidated, or you could or even unintentionally get like a bigger ego and say, I can do that better, type of thing.
Yeah. The only time I'll say I think I can do that better is if I'm talking about myself. Usually, if I'm watching back and I'm listening back to something I did and I go, I think I could do that better. I think I can improve upon what I did. You know, I'm always my own harshest critic in that regard.
I think that's human nature.
What type of hobbies do you like to do outside of anime?
You know, I play a lot of video games, and honestly, it's a lot of it's a lot of my spare time. I play a lot of RPGs, JRPGs. I'm trying to think of the ones I've been playing as of late. I'm a big. I play a lot of Soul Calibur,
Yes.
fighting game, which, funny enough, started merely because I had worked on the game, the latest iteration, and I had played it back in the days of when it was still Soul Edge. People remember that.
PlayStation 1.
Yes. And then I ended up working on the most recent iteration. I thought, I remember, I love Soul Calibur, but I hadn't played it since 2, so it had been a while. So I was like, maybe I'll get back into it. And then I just, one thing led to another. I went down this long, deep rabbit hole where I just got really into the meta and nuances of the fighting games, and particularly with Soul Calibur. Because normally I don't play a whole lot of fighting games, but like Soul Calibur is one I played a lot of. I also have played now a bit of Guilty Gear because I do voice a character. I voice Sen Kisk in Guilty Gear, Strive, and the last time I was Xrd. Yes, exactly. So when they added him to Strive, I thought, well, I'd like to be able to play my character, on like I don't have to be tournament level, but just good enough so that I could like go to a convention or whatever and play casually and not make a total embarrassment of myself. So I put in a bit of work to learn Guilty Gear Strive. Actually, I did a Twitch stream where I had KG Tang on, who voiced Faust.
Oh, sure.
And he had played the game. And I was like, okay, KG, teach me like how do I fighting game? How do I play 2D fighting games? Because Soul Calibur is a 3D fighter, so it's takes a little time to get used to. But otherwise, I play, as I said, a lot of RPGs, Final Fantasies. One of my favorite RPGs and video games ever is Xenogears, which if you follow me on Twitter, I often talk a lot about. Like, please give us more Xeno, give us a Xenogears remaster. Give us it'll never happen.
That's how I am with Legacy of Kain.
Legacy of Kain. Oh, Legacy of Kain is so good. You know what? Have you seen the Legacy of Kain behind the scenes outtakes or recording sessions with the voice actors? Oh, it's so good. I think you can still find it if you go on YouTube. You type in Legacy of Kain, or what was the follow-up? Legacy.
There's Blood Omen, Soul Reaver 2, Defiance, and Blood Omen 2.
So I think for Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, if you look those up and you type in behind the scenes or voice actors, you can find recordings of those voice actors work, and they're terrific. I mean, we got Michael Bell and the late Tony Jay is the Elder God.
Simon Templeman.
Yeah, Simon Templeman. Yeah, and it's so great because you see them kind of joking with each other or kind of doing outtakes.
That would be so awesome to see.
But I think you are definitely not alone, and people would love a remake of those games. It'd be awesome. It's just Fortunately, Tony Jay is no longer with you. It's such I think people might remember him Megabyte from Reboot. And Frollo
and
from
he was
Hunchback.
the villain in a short-lived cartoon series called Cyber 9.
I don't know that one. He was also Shere Khan in Tailspin.
And Mighty Max, he was the villain in there.
Yes, but what a one-of-a-kind performer he is. So cool. Such a cool voice.
So I think we're almost at time, which I'm super sad because this is
we're just getting started.
I know. Evil rules. I'll blame the overlord behind me, not him. But I could talk video games all day because I'm a huge JRPG fan. But I guess our final question, just to finish up, is, as we're teachers, we like to kind of put not an educational spin, because that would be crazy, because too much. But for any of our students that like to be creative or try something new, not necessarily just as voice actors, but in general, what words of wisdom would you share to help encourage them to take that leap?
Oh man, I mean, I'm definitely an example of someone who, I found something that I was really passionate about, and was creatively fulfilling. And you know, the whole thing about like, oh well, you know, you can't make a living doing that or whatever. Luckily, unlike many of my peers, I had very supportive parents, so I didn't have any of that kind of like, oh, you know, you gotta get a real job or whatever. But it's very common, you know, and I'm sure for any younger folks out there who maybe have a creative hobby or something they'd like to pursue, maybe they've been told that by someone at some point. And again, I'm certainly an example of someone who had something creative that really fed their soul, and just you know, I did everything in my power to make it happen, and luckily it worked out. I can't say, you know, oh, 100% success rate, yeah, it'll absolutely work out for you. But I would say if there's something you want to do and that's, you know, that interests you, I mean, check it out. What's the harm? And maybe, you know, you explore it and it ends up not being something that you're like, well, you know, I do like to do it more as a hobby, but maybe not as a job. But certainly, yeah, explore it, and you never know. You never know where it might lead you. And even if it seems like, you know, oh, I could never make that work, that's, you don't know. You know, I think there's, you know, people, there's something. People want, you know, if you're passionate about something and you do it well, people are going to want, you know, that thing and be willing to pay you for that thing. So, but yeah, I mean, that's as a job. But yeah, just as far as creatively, you know, I don't know, just, I guess be curious. Be curious about stuff and explore, you know, where those little threads take you. And yeah, you never know. You never know what might happen.
Absolutely, I like that. Not being afraid to try something.
Yeah, exactly. What's the worst that can happen? You know? Yeah, go for it. Do it. Do it.
I always tell
do
my
the
students,
thing.
I always tell my students, I'm like, I take a little quote from Homer. I said, trying is the first step toward failure. Just do it.
Yeah, and I, you know what? Exactly. I mean, that can be kind of tough. Like I think a lot of us, and it's kind of human. You know, sometimes we don't want to try something new because like we don't want to be bad at it. But it's like that's everyone. You take someone who, you know, whoever, someone you admire who does something, you know, whether it's an actor or they work in, you know, doing whatever.
Absolutely.
Architecture, you know, restaurant tour, you know, whatever it is. There's something that you're like, man, that person does that thing so well. There was a time in that person's life where they did that thing for the first time and they were not good at it.
Very true.
But they for whatever reason they kept at it and, you know, and struggled, whatever. But that's the whole part of the process. And then it's so rewarding when you get good at it. Yeah, the improvement. There are things like, again, taking fighting games as an example. You know, I have no delusions, you know, I'm not going to win Evo or whatever it is. I'm not going to be a professional tournament player, but just, you know, playing a fighting game and getting better and learning kind of the ins and outs and learning, you know, and that teaches me more about how I behave, you know, or weaknesses and things just to improve upon my own gameplay, or like, you know, chess or something like that, kind of game theory. You know, there's so many different things that ways you can challenge yourself. And just getting better at that thing, it's really fun and it feels really good. So yeah,
that's all you can really do.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.
So it's just really funny that I'm, you know, hearing like multiple people from Buffalo.
I just call myself one of the rare Colorado natives. It's like kind of an endangered species out here.
Yeah, and my very first anime convention was in Buffalo. It was a very small, like college-run convention, first year, you know, run by a friend who I knew, and that time he was like, hey, you want to, you know, be a guest at this convention? And it's the first time I'm like, yeah. Sure, I've never done it before. You know, I was just getting started in voiceover. I think I had 1 credit to my name. I had done a guest role on Pokemon, the main
Oh,
Pokemon
wow.
series, which was very exciting, certainly at the time. And I have a whole story about when I had, again, so I grew up in Ithaca, New York, and then at a certain point, because I knew I wanted to be a voice actor, and they say, well, you gotta be where the work is. Nowadays is a little more. It's a little more open. You can work remotely, but I would still say it's a good idea.
Well, I think it's like any role.
Yeah.
Any job that you do, it's better to be closer to where you work.
Yeah.
So you can build that rapport, build that relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even
So
though you're remote, you still are close to the office.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and certainly at the time it was like, well, no, you gotta go, to one of the big cities. And so for me, it was, well, I could move to New York or Los Angeles.
Mhm.
And at the time, I thought, well, Los Angeles is far. it's the other end of the country for me, and it's kind of a scary thing, moving out on my own and going to live on my own for the first time. I mean, I spent a year in college, but that almost doesn't feel the same at all. Like, things are provided. You got your dorm and everything, and you're going to be provided for, and food and everything. So it's not quite the same. But so that was going to be my first time truly like, no, you gotta figure stuff out, and you are on your own.
Yeah,
for the most
adulting
part.
is hard.
Yeah. So it was going to be my first time truly adulting. So I thought, well, maybe I should move to New York City, because if things go south
Mhm.
and I fall flat on my face, then it's a 5-hour Greyhound bus.
I was gonna
back.
say you're close to
Yeah,
home.
exactly. So it's like, I can go back, kind of dust myself off. Whoops, okay, and then try again or whatever. So I chose New York, and leading up to moving, I had sent my demo to a bunch of places I had found through various resource guides and stuff, studios. And one of those places was the recording studio that did Pokemon at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And so I got in, and I had been living there about a month, when I got a call from the studio saying, hey, we got your materials and we really loved it, and we have this part. We're wondering if you're interested on Pokemon to come in and play. And I'm like just about to explode, internally. I'm just trying to keep everything together and professional. It's like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, certainly. Okay, great. And here's the details and everything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great, thank you very much. And I hang up my phone, and cause I just gotten out of the subway, and I hang up my phone, and I stare at it, and I just literally leap into the air, and I'm like, yes! Like, it was such a victory for me, because it was like such a big deal, like one of my first professional jobs ever. And certainly in anime and Pokemon, everyone knows Pokemon. So.
I was gonna say it's been going on for decades now.
Yeah, it's a worldwide known. Everyone. There's other credits where I could say, oh yeah, I play this character, and like in what is that show? But if I go, oh Pokemon, like, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
everyone knows Pokemon.
Everyone knows Pokemon.